Instructor Teresa Pelkie. Welcome to our class.
HTML tables are used for what is called tabular data. By this we mean for content that is organized into rows and columns. There would generally be either a column heading, a row heading, or both. Tables are not used for content layout or for page layout. There are many HTML table attributes, and you will notice that they are used in your text. They are allowed in the XHTML transitional version. In the XHTML strict version, they should be replaced by CSS in order to validate, and they are deprecated in HTML5 in favor of using style sheets. So let's take a look at some basic table tags. Here we see we have an opening and closing table tag, and we have one row, which is indicated by our opening and closing TR tag. This row happens to contain 3 cells, which are indicated by our opening and closing TD tag. At minimum, you need a table tag, a row tag, and a TD tag. So at minimum, you need 1 cell in 1 row to comprise a table. So, and notice that it makes more sense to write the code down. It's easier to view, although when we display it, it will display horizontal. These are all block level elements, and these are your basic tags. I will now switch over to my editor, and I am in what is called the split view mode. It is right up here, split screen, so I can see my code and the output. Here I have 2 rows. Each row contains 3 cells. Notice the display. By default, the table is as large as the content. There is no border or grid lines. So if you look at what we have, it doesn't really look like it's a table. Now, if I were to add the border attribute, and I'm going to just set this to 1, now I see that I have grid lines. And if you look closely, you can see that there are some space between the grid lines. If I were to increase my border to a value of 10, I would notice that only the outside border changes and the inside grid lines stay the same. If I were to add a cell padding attribute, and notice where we're adding these attributes, and I will exaggerate this so that we can see it. I will set my cell padding to 10. You will notice that the inside of our cells are now roomier. So the padding, cell padding, applies to the inside of the cells. If I were to add a cell spacing attribute, and I will exaggerate it to 10, I will see the space increased. If I were to set the cell spacing to 0, I would notice that now I have nice solid lines. So let's take a look at the width attribute. If I were to add a width to my table, and I will, you will notice that the table has just gotten larger. Notice that the cells are not necessarily even. Increasing the width of the table does not necessarily increase the size of the cells proportionally. If you want the sizes of the cells proportionally, you need to indicate this inside your TD tags. So I will copy and paste to make them all proportional. And notice that if you do start setting unit measurements, they do need to add up correctly, or there will be a problem with your table. Okay, let's look at the call span attribute. enables us to span across cells. Supposing I wanted to have the word apple in 2 cells, what I could do is I can put a call span attribute, and I would set it to a value of 2, meaning that this cell will now span across 2. So call span allows us to merge across cells. Row span, on the other hand, allows us to merge down. So if I were to put a row span in this same cell, I would see that apple is now taking the place of 2 cells also. So let me remove these attributes. And now we will look at alignment. I will add some content. Notice we have what is called horizontal and vertical alignment. Horizontal alignment is right, center, left. Vertical alignment is top, middle, bottom. If I wanted to center the word kiwi, I can do so using the align attribute. If I were to want to vertically align this to the top, I can do so using the v-align attribute. These attributes and concepts are the basic table properties that we are learning. All of these attributes can be replaced with CSS. I have a lab on the handout that will allow you to practice using these. And for part 2 of the lab, I would suggest trying to replace these attributes using some suggested CSS properties.